With all this information you've been hearing during the afternoon, probably you're wondering that if you have now the tools, you have databases, you have transactions, you have identities, why not building a new bank, a new blockchain-based bank? And that's exactly what these guys are trying to do. So please, join the stage.
So, good afternoon. Before my conference, I would like to make a quick survey. It's really simple. Is how many of you think that create a bank from the scratch is a really difficult task with a lot of challenge? Can you raise up your hand? So, most of you think it's easy to create a bank from the scratch? No. Isn't it? No. So, how many of you think that even much more difficult than create a bank from the scratch is to try to transform a current bank for the new economy? Can you raise up your hands who think it's difficult to transform a bank than to create from the scratch? So I see a lot of bankers working in banks and trying to transform the bank. So basically, that's what we thought. We are a bunch of people working in banks, working for banks. And after thinking about how will be the next challenge, with all the fintech industry threatening the business model of the banks, with all the new experience of consumers, the new technologies like blockchain or big data or artificial intelligence, we decided to think that it was easier to create a bank from the scratch using that technologies than to try to transform the current banks. The first thing what we did, what do you think is the most important thing when you are creating, in this case, a bank? The first thing is about blockchain, is technology, is big data, we think it's the consumer. At the end of the day, the advantage of creating a bank from the scratch is that you can focus on what is really important. It's about the consumer and the experience you want to provide that. So basically, what we did is this. So 2getherbank is basically a global marketplace. It's a global, open, and collaborative marketplace based on new technologies like big data, artificial intelligence, and blockchain. But basically, what we want to do is that to allow to the user to manage their personal economy and their finance, or even a company, in an automatic way. And they can access to financial products or fintechs or banks, provided by fintechs or banks from around the world, but using the same user interface. And this is because probably you will agree that right now, when you think fintech versus banks versus consumers, the framework you have is that what is happening right now is that the fintech companies are basically unbundling the banking services. We have a bank where we are provided a credit card, an account, a mortgage, a loan, an investment strategy or products. So the fintechs basically are unbundling those services. And at the same time, what we think is that in the future, what will happen with the consumer? Will we have like 10 different user interface for managing, one for managing the loans, the other one for managing the mortgage, the other one for managing the investments, the other one for managing the payments? So at the same time, what is happening with fintech and banks is that there are a lot of hype around the fintechs, but at the end of the day, what we think is that banks are really strong, are really powerful. And when you talk about money, it's not like changing your smartphone or changing your television. It's about your money that obviously is much more important than other things. So we think that instead of looking a place where fintech and banks can fight, why won't we try to get the best of both worlds? And the first thing we think is about the consumer. If you see the consumer, our vision is that we need to create a bank where managing personal economy will be easier. What is happening right now is that when we get into our account, we have a lot of information we are not able to see. It's about the future. So what we need to do is to provide the best comprehensive data visualization to empower people to understand their economy, their future, and take the right decisions. The second one is about the time. So artificial intelligence, at the end of the day, what is really useful is to save you time. So what we want is to a frictionless user experience with a powerful task automatizations related to finance. The third one is that right now, even it's legal, it's really difficult if I'm like a Spanish citizen, I want to ask for a mortgage to a bank in Germany or in Ireland. So what we see is in a global world, and especially in the European Union, we need to provide a full access to the wide offer of financial products and services from fintech or from banks. And finally, what is most important is that know your customer, we think is not just a legal question. It's about to understand who you are, how are your relations, how is your spend, how is your income, and try, if we have a whole picture of your economy, of your behavior in the past, we can predict the future and give you advice about what are the best decisions you have to make. Related to bank, what we see working with banks and working in banks is that the innovation is really difficult. There are a lot of barriers, technology barriers, institutional barriers, legacy barriers, politics. So they are finding also big issues. We saw it today with the new business models, because all the banking business model is based on interest rate, and we all know how, at least in Europe, is the interest rate and how it will be. At the same time, fintech companies are much faster, developing best technology, but also they are facing some challenge. Consumer trustability, the fraud, the compliance, the regulation. So we saw a big opportunity, as I told you, to put together both things. Why don't we see, or why don't we create a banking experience where banks and fintech can cooperate and offer the products to the consumers? So this is what we think. What actually happened is that the bank has basically split, the business bank is split in two areas. First of all is cash management. It's about payments, transfers, bills, receipt. The second one is about the balance of the bank, which is saving and investment products. And that's the important thing for the banks right now, because at the end of the day, what makes them make money is the balance, is to trade with investment products and balanced products. And what happens then is that the cash management, it's a pain for the bank. It's not important because it is not really profitable. It's thought like a service, so it has to be developed with new technologies, new experience all the time. So what we thought is, if we create a powerful cash management service, which is the entrance door of every consumer, so where any fintech or bank can offer their products all around the world. And this is basically what is 2getherbank. So talking about the technology, we have seen about blockchain. Why we use blockchain? Because one of the fears we have is that when we talk about blockchain, there is a lot of hype about blockchain. Blockchain has a lot of capabilities. And when we decided to create 2getherbank, we choose to work over the blockchain part of the platform because at the end of the day, I think someone of the speakers was saying before that there is no a single thing that blockchain does that cannot be done with other technology, and he's right. But at the end of the day, it's a question of implementation. Actually, we think that there are a lot of things that you cannot do if you don't use blockchain. But why we use blockchain is basically because we can trade digital assets around the world in a fast, secure, and cheaper way than other systems. In the second place, we can build a banking service over the top. One of the things of 2getherbank is that it can work over the top of current infrastructure banks. Okay? So we don't need to create just a branch of 2getherbank. We can work over the top of basically almost any bank. And also, most important is that when we think in banking, we are not thinking in the future, in the near future, in fiat currencies. We are thinking in goods and services that can be tokenized in the blockchain and traded, like gasoline, like electricity. I think we have seen several examples today, removing some financial intermediaries. So I would like to talk about a little bit about big data and artificial intelligence. I'm going to ask Luis, he's the expert, about big data and artificial intelligence. He will explain basically the infrastructure.
Thank you very much, Salvador. So this is our simplified core architecture. I won't be bothering you on the details on this architecture. Instead, I want to focus on the three main points on why we chose big data to approach our core banking system. And the first reason is data itself. We want to gather a possible bit of information that we can from our users. That comes from individual transactions from both 2getherbank or other fintechs or external banks to the actual use of the app itself, on how they use the app of 2getherbank, so that we can know better our customer. Second reason is processing power and scalability. We are able to process most of what usual traditional banks take in batch processes throughout the night in real time. And it's also scalable, in a sense that we can do that with either 100 users or 100 million users. That's what we're using big data technologies. And the third one, possibly the most important one, is that there are some changes in current paradigms that can only be solved through big data. For instance, we can process a simulation process through AI so that we can approach the next cash flows on a daily basis for each single user of the system. And now, why is this all useful for the final customer, for the final user? I'll give you 5 of the main facts that are most important to us, probably. The first one is the automatization of the economy. Since we are working on a transaction level, we can create rules, we can create processes that are automated when certain things happen, where the user can have more control of the app itself, of their economy itself. Second one is zero friction. Today, it's usually painful to use some of the apps, to use some of your banking systems, whether it's web, whether it's mobile. And we want to get rid of that. We really want to understand how the user interacts with the app, interacts with the bank. We want to tailor the app for them. They can already choose the products they want. They can already choose the fintechs they want. But we also want to make the experience better. We want to have a different app for everyone, where if you use transactions a lot, it will be first on your popular list of actions you do with the app. So third up is fair customer advising. And this is the key fact for big data. I don't know if you're aware that Netflix actually started using AI systems to recommend the best movies or the best TV shows for each individual user. They moved a step forward, and they started trying to understand what people wanted, at what time frame, from what audience, what age, what kind of interaction, what type of theme. And from then, they started to create their own shows and offering them to the people who wanted them. And that's what we want to do. We want to use all this data to shoot better products